The stars above glimmered like scattered diamonds, casting a soft glow over the floating city of Leora's people. The alien queen sat on her throne, her golden eyes scanning the crowd of diplomats, nobles, and scholars gathered before her. To most, this gathering was a display of power, a reminder that she ruled one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. But Leora's mind was elsewhere. Her thoughts often drifted to Earth, to the human she had met months ago, Elias. There was something about him that intrigued her, not his strength, not his intelligence as humans usually displayed, but a subtle confidence, a quiet depth she had rarely seen in any being. Most humans were simple, fragile creatures. Yet Elias seemed different. Their meeting had been unusual. During a diplomatic mission to Earth, Leora had disguised herself as a visitor. Curious to see these primitive beings firsthand, she wandered among their cities, observing, learning, and unintentionally smiling at their awkward charm. That was when she had noticed him. Elias was helping a group of children build a makeshift robot in a small park. He laughed easily, encouraged them patiently, and treated even the tiniest mistakes as lessons rather than failures. Leora had been fascinated. No other human she had encountered had such patience, such kindness. And when he noticed her, though she had tried to hide, his eyes did not widen in fear or wonder. Instead, they held a calm, steady curiosity. "You are far from home," he said, his voice warm and steady. "Are you lost?" Leora had tilted her head, amused. Lost? In a world that fascinated her? Perhaps. But she did not answer. Instead, she smiled. And that smile, small, almost shy, seemed to intrigue him further. Their conversation lasted hours. He asked questions, not just about her world, but about her thoughts, her dreams, and her fears. Leora was not used to anyone looking past her crown and her status. Yet Elias did. Months passed after that first meeting. What began as casual correspondence turned into regular communication, then visits, and eventually, courtship. To her council and advisors, it was unusual. How could a human, a creature so fragile compared to their advanced technology, capture the attention of a queen? But Leora did not care. She saw something no one else did: potential, strength hidden behind simplicity, and a spirit unbroken by the limits of his species. When she finally asked him to marry her, Elias had laughed, as if she were joking. "A queen?" he asked. "Me? I'm just a man." "You are not just anything," she replied, smiling. "You are extraordinary." The wedding was a grand affair, held on the floating palace above the luminous planet. Aliens from every corner of the galaxy attended, curious to see the human who had won the queen's heart. Elias appeared calm, almost humble, as he walked beside Leora, holding her hand. No extravagant displays of strength, no attempts to impress. Just a man who seemed ordinary. Leora looked at him and felt a strange mix of amusement and affection. She thought she understood humans fragile, emotional, unpredictable. Elias had seemed charming, yes, but harmless. Perhaps she had underestimated how delightful it was to have a companion who did not seek power or prestige. She expected him to be ordinary. That assumption would soon change. As the ceremony concluded and celebrations filled the palace, Leora found herself stepping away from the crowd. She watched Elias speak with a group of young alien nobles, patiently explaining a human strategy game. He laughed at their mistakes, encouraged creativity, and somehow managed to gain their respect without raising his voice or showing off. For a moment, Leora paused, a thoughtful frown crossing her face. "Perhaps he is more clever than I thought," she muttered to herself. But she shook her head. No matter. He is still human, predictable. Yet deep inside, a small spark of curiosity lit her thoughts. She could not shake the feeling that Elias held secrets, hidden layers she had yet to discover. And perhaps, One day, he would reveal them. But for now, he remained calm, smiling, seemingly ordinary. And Leora, the queen of one of the greatest civilizations in the galaxy, found herself looking forward to each ordinary moment with him, unaware that those moments were far from ordinary, and that her human husband's true power would soon astonish her and the entire galaxy. Life aboard the floating palace was unlike anything Elias had ever known. Towering walls of transparent crystal offered breathtaking views of the luminous planet below. Rivers of light flowing across its surface like liquid stars. Hallways hummed with energy, machines silently moving, attending to the needs of the palace and its inhabitants. The air smelled faintly of ozone and alien flowers, a mixture both strange and comforting. Elias walked beside Leora as they toured the palace, careful to study every detail. He was learning quickly. Where the aliens relied on intricate controls and advanced AI for every task, Elias instinctively understood patterns. He adjusted a malfunctioning energy panel with a few quick gestures, fixing a problem that had puzzled engineers for hours. Leora watched him quietly, her golden eyes widening with a mix of pride and surprise. She had expected him to struggle, to fumble, like most humans would in such an advanced environment. But Elias moved with ease, calmly observing, thinking, and acting with precision. Even her most skilled engineers nodded in approval, whispering among themselves. "You learn faster than any human I have ever met," Leora said, her voice soft but curious. Elias shrugged, smiling. "I just pay attention. Sometimes being ordinary means noticing what others overlook." For the first time, Leora realized that perhaps humans were not as limited as her people believed. They lacked the technology of her civilization, yes. But they had something else. Ingenuity, adaptability, and a kind of intuition that machines could not replicate. Days turned into weeks, and Elias adapted to palace life with remarkable ease. He learned the alien languages, studied their science, and even impressed scholars with his unconventional ideas. He suggested ways to improve energy efficiency, redesign security protocols, and enhance communication systems. Each suggestion seemed simple to him, yet revolutionary to the Alien Council. Meanwhile, Leora's advisors began to watch him with suspicion. Some whispered that the human might be hiding something, that his abilities were unnatural. Leora laughed at these warnings. "He is my husband," she said. "No human could be more than he seems." Yet, each day, she found herself questioning her own certainty. Elias never sought recognition or power. He spoke only when he had an idea or a solution, never trying to dominate conversations or claim credit. It was this humility, combined with his sharp mind, that slowly won the respect of the Alien Council. Leora noticed it too, the way alien officials who once dismissed him as a novelty now listened closely, sometimes nodding in agreement at his suggestions. One evening, Leora invited Elias to the palace garden, a floating terrace filled with plants that glowed softly in the dim light. The two walked among the shimmering flowers, the alien city below sparkling like a sea of stars. "You are different from what I expected," Leora said, her voice almost shy. "Most humans would be overwhelmed here. Most would fail." Elias looked at her, eyes calm. "Maybe. But humans survive. We find ways. Sometimes the unexpected solution is the simplest one." Leora smiled, but a small frown lingered. "I thought I understood humans. I thought you were ordinary. But I feel like I am learning every day that I do not." Elias stopped and touched her hand gently. "Maybe that is because humans are not meant to be understood fully at first glance. We grow, adapt, and change. Sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly. But we endure." The words struck Leora. She realized that she had underestimated the human she had married. Not in arrogance, but in a way she had never thought to consider. Elias was ordinary on the surface, yes. But beneath that lay strength, patience, and a mind capable of far more than anyone in the palace could imagine. The following days brought new challenges. A small technical malfunction in the palace's defense system threatened to expose vulnerabilities to the surrounding sectors. Alien engineers panicked, running complex simulations and consulting layers of AI protocols. Elias quietly analyzed the situation, observing patterns they overlooked. Within hours, he devised a solution that was simple, elegant, and effective. The council watched in stunned silence as the defense system stabilized. Leora's heart swelled with pride, but also a faint worry. She wondered how much more this human could do, and if one day, his true abilities would surpass even her understanding. That night, she gazed at Elias as he slept, peaceful and unaware of the weight of their world. "He seems ordinary," she whispered to herself. "Yet I feel that everything might change because of him." Little did Leora know, the calm days aboard the palace were only the beginning. The universe had challenges ahead, threats that even her advanced civilization could not handle alone. And when those challenges came, Elias would show that humans, seemingly fragile and simple, could be forces the galaxy would never forget. Peace in the floating palace did not last long. One morning, alarms blared across the halls, red lights flashing as urgent messages flooded the palace's communication systems. Leora's golden eyes widened as she scanned the reports. An enemy fleet, far larger and more advanced than anything her civilization had encountered in decades, was approaching the planet below. They moved with precision, striking swiftly and without warning. Her council panicked, discussing strategies and defenses in rapid, overlapping voices. Yet nothing seemed sufficient. The usual technology, the carefully crafted weapons and shields, were failing to keep the attackers at bay. Leora turned to Elias, who had been calmly observing the chaos. "Elias, what can we do? Our defenses are failing," she shouted, frustration creeping into her voice. Elias studied the situation, scanning the systems, observing the enemy patterns, and listening to the alien engineers. His brow furrowed in concentration. "They are relying on predictable tactics," he said softly. "We cannot fight them with what they expect. We must think differently." The council scoffed. "Different? They will destroy us. We cannot risk untested strategies." Elias looked at Leora, steady and calm. "Trust me, I will not fail." For the first time, Leora saw a glimmer of something extraordinary. This human, whom she had thought ordinary, had not only observed the problem but seemed to understand it in a way that defied her civilization's advanced logic. She nodded slowly. "Do it," she said, her voice carrying authority that silenced the room. Elias moved swiftly, issuing commands with clarity and confidence. He redirected the palace's energy grids to create a defensive shield that moved unpredictably, confusing the enemy ships. He coordinated counterattacks, using minimal forces, but striking with maximum efficiency. Engineers followed his instructions, surprised by how seamlessly his strategy worked with their technology. When the enemy fleet fired, their attacks missed their targets again and again. Shields adapted in real time, guided by Elias's insight. Leora watched in awe as the human she had married, this ordinary man, demonstrated thinking that surpassed even her council's combined knowledge. Then came the moment that stunned everyone. A massive enemy warship broke through the first layer of defense, heading directly toward the palace. Leora's heart raced, but Elias did not flinch. He extended his hands toward the controls, and the palace's energy fields responded, bending, shifting, and finally enveloping the incoming ship in a radiant trap of light. The warship shuddered, powerless, and the enemy fleet hesitated, confused by the sudden turn of events. Elias did not stop. He studied their formation, predicted their next moves, and countered with precision. Each human instinct, each clever calculation, made him seem almost untouchable. The council, who had doubted him, now stared in silent disbelief. Leora felt pride swell in her chest, but it was mixed with awe and a touch of fear. How much power did this human hold? When the battle ended hours later, the enemy fleet retreated, beaten not by brute force, but by strategy and insight they could not anticipate. The palace was intact, and the planet below was safe, but the echoes of the confrontation left everyone shaken. Leora approached Elias, her golden eyes shining. You are no ordinary human," she said softly, almost in disbelief. Elias smiled, exhaustion faint in his features. "I told you, humans endure. We find ways to survive and adapt. Sometimes the limits you see are only what you expect us to be." Leora reached for his hand, holding it tightly. "I underestimated you," she admitted. "Completely. And I see now that humans are extraordinary in ways I never imagined." Elias shrugged modestly. "I am just one human. But humans, as a species, we have potential. We grow, we adapt, and sometimes we surprise even ourselves." That night, the palace was quiet. Leora watched Elias as he rested, her thoughts heavy with realization. The human she had married, whom she had thought harmless and ordinary, had just saved an entire civilization with nothing but his mind, intuition, and courage. She knew then that life would never be the same. The humans she had once underestimated were not merely curiosities or companions. They were powerful, adaptable, and capable of facing the galaxy's greatest threats. And Elias was only the beginning. The palace was quiet after the battle, but the air was heavy with awe and tension. Alien officials whispered among themselves, still trying to comprehend what had just occurred. Leora walked through the grand halls, her mind racing. The human she had married, whom she had thought ordinary, had just outsmarted a fleet of highly advanced alien invaders. And he had done it without boasting, without relying on technology, only his mind, his instincts, and his calm courage. Elias was in the central chamber, quietly reviewing reports of the enemy retreat. His movements were calm, precise, and efficient, the kind of quiet confidence that made his earlier actions in the battle seem even more remarkable. Leora approached him, her expression a mixture of admiration and curiosity. "You truly are extraordinary," she said softly, standing beside him. Elias looked up, meeting her golden eyes with a gentle smile. "I did what had to be done. Humans survive by adapting. Sometimes that means thinking in ways others do not expect." Leora shook her head. "I underestimated you. I thought I understood your kind. I thought you were ordinary. Elias chuckled softly. "I am human. Ordinary on the surface. Maybe. But humans have a way of surprising those who judge us too quickly." For the first time, Leora realized that humanity's greatest strength was not in weapons, technology, or raw power, but in resilience, creativity, and the ability to adapt under pressure. Elias embodied all of these traits. He had led the palace and her civilization to victory with nothing more than his mind and courage. The alien council, now gathered around them, stared in silence. Some bowed in respect. Others whispered in amazement. Their skepticism had been replaced by awe. Elias's calm authority, combined with his unassuming nature, had won their admiration. "Tell me," Leora said, turning to him fully, "how do you do it? How do you see solutions that we cannot?" Elias paused, choosing his words carefully. "It is not about seeing better than you. It is about seeing differently. Humans have limits, yes, but we also have instincts, intuition, and creativity. We take what we learn and apply it in ways that are unexpected. Sometimes, that is enough to turn the tide." The council murmured among themselves, slowly realizing the truth of his words. Their civilization, powerful as it was, relied heavily on technology, rules, and predictability. Elias had shown them that human ingenuity could accomplish what machines and rigid protocols could not. Leora studied him, pride swelling in her chest. "You are not just my husband," she said softly. "You are a leader, a protector, a force I never imagined." Elias shook his head. "I am only one man. But humans, we are capable of much more than you may think. We endure, we adapt, and we fight when it matters most." For the first time, Leora felt true respect for her people's new ally. She had married Elias, thinking he was harmless, thinking he would be a companion rather than a partner. Now, she saw that he was more than that. He was equal, perhaps even superior, in ways that went beyond technology and rank. Over the following days, Elias worked with the Council to rebuild defenses, improve strategies, and prepare for any future threats. Each suggestion he made was simple in execution, but revolutionary in effect. Leora observed quietly, feeling a mix of admiration and humility. She realized that she had been blind to the potential of humans, judging them by appearances rather than capability. One evening, as the sun of the distant planet set in brilliant streaks of orange and purple, Leora found Elias in the palace garden. The alien plants glowed softly, casting a serene light over his thoughtful expression. She approached him, taking his hand gently. "You have changed everything," she said. "Not just for me, but for all of us. You have shown that humans are not what we expected. You have made us see differently. Avenantly, ardent for, Adafilden. No, Endywerg." Elias smiled, squeezing her hand. "Humans are more than they appear. And sometimes, the galaxy needs that more than anything else. Unexpected courage, insight, and endurance." Leora nodded, feeling a new sense of purpose. She would no longer see Elias as merely her husband, but as a partner, a leader, and a symbol of humanity's strength. His calm power, his quiet wisdom, and his unassuming courage had earned her full respect and the respect of her people. That night, as the palace lights shimmered and the city below sparkled, Leora understood the truth. Humans were extraordinary, even when they seemed ordinary. And Elias, the human she had thought she understood, had only begun to reveal the power hidden within his kind. The galaxy had not yet seen the full extent of human potential. But it would. And when it did, Leora knew that humanity would rise in ways no one, including herself, could ever forget. The palace was alive with a new energy. Word of Elias's extraordinary abilities had spread across the alien civilization, and humans were no longer seen as fragile curiosities. Instead, they were regarded as a species of resilience, ingenuity, and courage. Leora walked through the grand halls, her golden eyes observing the bustling activity with pride. Her husband, once thought ordinary, had become a symbol of hope not only for her people, but for the galaxy itself. Elias moved among the engineers and council members, offering insights, adjustments, and encouragement. His calm presence seemed to inspire everyone around him. Aliens who had once doubted him now sought his counsel, eager to learn from a human who had outsmarted even the most advanced technology. Leora joined him, walking through the palace garden where soft, glowing plants cast their gentle light over the terrace. The distant planet below shimmered like a sea of stars, peaceful for the first time in years. "You have changed everything," Leora said, her voice soft but certain. Elias smiled, his gaze steady on the horizon. "Humans endure. We adapt. We learn. And when we must, we rise to the challenge. I am only one example." Leora looked at him, admiration clear in her eyes. "No. You are more than an example. You are a leader, a protector, and a partner." You have shown my people that humans are stronger than we ever imagined. In the days that followed, Elias worked alongside Leora to reshape the alien civilization's approach to diplomacy, defense, and exploration. Together, they combined human creativity with alien technology, creating solutions that neither species could have achieved alone. New defense systems were built with intuitive designs. Fleets were coordinated with unconventional strategies, and communication networks became faster and more efficient. For the first time, the Alien Council began to see humanity as equals. The humans who had once been dismissed as fragile and limited were now respected, their potential recognized across the galaxy. Leora watched as her people's attitudes shifted, feeling a sense of pride and hope she had never experienced before. One day, a group of young alien scholars approached Elias with questions. They wanted to understand how a human could think in ways so different from their own. Elias knelt to their level, explaining patiently. He described human creativity, adaptability, and intuition not as magic, but as a product of experience, learning, and resilience. These are things that humans carry inside us, he said. We are not stronger in the way your technology is stronger. But we find ways to succeed even when the odds seem impossible. That is the true strength of humanity. We. The scholars listened with rapt attention, inspired. Leora stood nearby, her heart swelling. She had married Elias thinking he was ordinary, but now she understood. Humans were extraordinary, and Elias was living proof. As months passed, the palace became a hub of innovation. Humans began sharing knowledge with the aliens, and together, they explored new frontiers of science and technology. Alliances formed, trade networks expanded, and conflicts that once seemed inevitable were solved with clever strategy and cooperation. One evening, Leora and Elias stood together on the palace balcony, overlooking the sparkling city below. The stars above shone brighter than ever, as if celebrating the new era that humanity and the alien civilization had begun together. You have done something incredible, Leora said softly, resting her hand on Elias's arm. Not just for my people, but for all of us. You have shown that humans are capable of far more than anyone imagined. Elias looked at her, calm and humble. I only did what humans do best. We endure, we adapt, and we rise when it matters. The galaxy will see more of what we can do, but it begins with trust, courage, and the willingness to try. Leora nodded, her golden eyes reflecting both love and pride. Then let us continue together, she said. Humans and aliens, side by side. We will face whatever the galaxy brings, and together, we will thrive. Elias smiled, squeezing her hand gently. Together, he agreed. And so, a new era began. One where humans were no longer underestimated, where ingenuity, courage, and resilience were celebrated across species. The galaxy would come to recognize humanity not as fragile, but as formidable, an enduring force capable of rising above any challenge. Leora looked at Elias, remembering the man she had once thought ordinary. Now, she understood the truth. Appearances could be deceiving. True strength came from within. And Elias, her human husband, had proven that humans were not only capable but extraordinary. The stars above shone with promise, and the galaxy, vast and endless, was ready to witness humanity's rise.